Good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing today? It has been a while since I have been on live, okay? And I know it's literally like the middle of the day, and I still look like, girl, like you look like you woke up, okay? But trust me and believe me, I've been up since about 4 o'clock this morning. And I pretty much did what I usually do. I usually go ahead and get the kids ready for school. I do all the things, okay? And then today I decided to just do a little Bible study. And of course, I still have to do a little afternoon walk in amongst some other things with work and everything else. But I wanted to come on here because I am currently on I am currently doing the Daniel fast, and I literally wanted to read the book of Daniel to kind of get a further understanding of what the Daniel fast was all about. And obviously, I went on the Daniel fast for my own general purposes. If you do not know, I am currently on my own weight loss journey. This is what my channel is physically all about. And if you're probably questioning what this live is all about, well, it will be about weight loss and spiritual warfare in some type of context because it's all connected. And at the end, I'll kind of go over all of that. But I literally have been on my weight loss journey back on my weight loss journey since I would have to say February of this year. And I have been totally successful in, losing a good 30 plus pounds and moving forward from there. But then I decided to post on YouTube about my weight loss journey. And it has been nothing but just an outpouring of individuals that have been really supportive in my journey or whatnot. But I would have to say maybe within the last previous 2 to 3 weeks or so, I kind of experienced a little burnout of wanting to even be on a weight loss journey, okay? Because this is totally mental. It really is mental. And, I dealt with a lot of things in my life. I've dealt with, emotional trauma. I've dealt with, wanting to lose weight, overeating, dealing with the spirit of gluttony, dealing with the spirit of procrastination, dealing with spiritual warfare on its own, having a low self-worth, having doubt in myself and imposter syndrome, all the things, okay? And I literally was like, look, okay, I've been successful in this, before, and I failed because I never included God in any of this. But on my journey back in February, that's when I decided to include God and surrender all of this, okay? And I went on a fast initially, and I just felt back in total alignment again with God and everything. And, what I wanted to see for myself, how I wanted to level up myself, how I wanted to level up my health, be the woman that I'm becoming, because like I said, I've dealt with a lot of things. And with all of that being said, the emotional trauma kind of got to me, okay? And that developed into the overeating and everything else. But what I really came on here was to say was that, hey, how you doing, Queen? Hello, good morning. Is it still good morning? Yes, good morning. How you doing? How you doing? So I actually just came on here because I am on the Daniel fast, and I was reading the book of Daniel, and I literally was flabbergasted as to what I was reading. And you'll understand if you're meant to understand. about what I was reading, you'll know, especially if you are spiritually awakened, because a lot of us, I believe, are asleep to what's going on in this world, and that's what it is. And for the people that this live is meant for, it will be for, and if for those that it's not, it's not. You know, so what I'm going to say is this. So in reading the book of Daniel, I actually was reading the book of Daniel 7 today, and it was talking a little bit about the end times, okay? And I really, really suggest you go read the book of Daniel for yourself, because especially in chapter 7, it talks about Daniel's vision and what his vision was as far as the prophecy and all of that stuff, okay? And then it says, how is the Daniel fast going? What can you eat on it? I used to be familiar with it. It's going excellent so far. This is technically day 2 for me. As you know, I was doing the juice fast. Or, I don't know, because I know you're not a part of the community, Queen. So I was on the juice fast for the actual first 3 days. And I was just literally just doing juices the first initial day, 3 days. And then yesterday I was still doing juices, and then I kind of transitioned into just eating a salad yesterday, like a raw salad. And today I have my smoothie today. This is for my breakfast. I have strawberry, banana, papaya, pineapple, banana, all of the things in this, just coconut water, and it's good, okay? Now, as far as what you can eat on the Daniel fast, you literally, it's just straight up, literally just fruits and veggies. According to what it says and what he ate in the actual scripture, he just ate vegetables, okay? And, a lot of people go into, okay, we could eat fruits too, and a lot of people say we can eat grains or whatnot. So technically I am doing I would have to say it's modified, because in the script, or what I read in the scripture, it said he ate nothing but vegetables and water. So, but fruits, veggies, and water. And you could do tea too, actually. I like to do herbal teas. They say kind of stay away from teas, because some of them are caffeinated and you don't want to have any caffeine. But do mostly your herbal teas as well, okay? But what I wanted to talk about today was just truly amazing to me, because I honestly was just very, very like, oh my gosh, okay? So let me go back all the way back, okay? And this is what I was studying today as far as what I was reading for the book of Daniel. And then, of course, I pulled out my handy dandy, I pulled out a study, like an explanation, or chat GPT or DeepSeek, and actually kind of went more in depth in this. And I kind of went down a rabbit hole of rabbit holes, okay? Also too, Queen, I don't know, I did put, I know you're not on Facebook or anything like that, but I did put, like a 7-day meal plan out for those that wanted to join me on this. So if you want to join me on the Daniel fast or whatnot, I don't know how you will be. I don't know if you're not on any other platform or anything, but as you know, you can email me at vanad.lewis@gmail.com to get the free meal plan. And it just kind of gives you ideas. It's just straight up what you can and cannot eat, and it gives you a 7-day startup meal plan on what you can't eat on the Daniel fast, by the way, okay? Okay. Sorry, this was just literally on the whim too. So what I'm learning on the Daniel. So this is what happens in Daniel chapter 1, okay? So in Daniel chapter 1, So 21 days. 21 days I'm going to be on the Daniel fast. So in Daniel 1, okay? So it says, or in Daniel 1, let me see. Okay, so in Daniel 1, we're talking about what happened in Daniel 1. And in Daniel 1, we're talking about what King Nebuchadnezzar did, okay? So what King Nebuchadnezzar did was he literally took people from Judah, which was, he took a whole bunch of young men, okay, from Judah into exile into the Babylonian culture, okay? So after King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon besieges Jerusalem, he takes select treasures and, most importantly, the most promising young men from the nobility of Judah into exile. So the goal is to assimilate them into Babylonian culture, re-educate them, and use their talents to serve the Babylonian Empire. So verses 3-7 talks about the test of faith. So the selection. Daniel and his 3 friends, which were Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, are chosen for their intelligence, education, and physical appearance. They undergo a 3-year training program to enter the king's serviceship. And then you have what they call the assimilation process started. As part of their assimilation, they're given new Babylonian names. Daniel, which means God is my judge, becomes Belteshazzar. Bel protect his life. That's what Belteshazzar means. Hananiah, the Lord is gracious, becomes Shadrach, command of Aku. Mishael, who is what God is, becomes Meshach, who is what Aku is. And then you have Azariah, the Lord is my help, becomes Abednego, servant of Nego. This name change was a significant act, intended to erase their identity as worships of Yahweh and rebrand them as servants of the Babylonian gods. Okay? Now, then it goes into defining the decision, verses 8-16. We have the conflict here. So the young men are assigned a daily portion of the king's food and wine. Daniel resolves not to defile himself with it. The reason is not explicitly stated, but it was likely because the food may have been unclean according to the Jewish law, like, for example, pork. The food, number 2, the food was likely first offered as a sacrifice to Babylonian idols. Number 3, and if you guys stay with me, I'm going somewhere with this, okay? The wine may have been used in pagan libation rituals. So the courageous request, Daniel respectfully asked the chief official for permission to abstain. The official is sympathetic but fears for his life if the young men appear malnourished. So the test is, Daniel proposes a 10-day test. Let him and his friends eat only vegetables, which could mean grains and legumes, and drink only water. And at the end of this period, their health could be compared to the others that actually conformed to the king's meals, okay, and the king's rule. So the result, God honors their faithfulness. After 10 days, they appear healthier and better, nourished than all other young men eating the royal food. Consequently, they are allowed to continue their diet, which is a blessing, okay? Now, the outcome in verses 17-21 of Daniel, the divine empowerment. God gives these 4 men not physical health, but also exceptional intellectual gifts like knowledge and skill in all of learning and wisdom. Specifically, he gives Daniel the ability to understand all visions and dreams. Superior wisdom. When training is complete, they are brought before King Nebuchadnezzar. The king finds them 10 times better than all the magicians and all the enchanters in his entire kingdom in matters of wisdom and understanding. Then you have longevity. Daniel's career is noted to have continued through the entire Babylonian reign and into the reign of the Cyrus, the reign of Cyrus the Persian. So the key theme in Daniel 1 is faithful resistance. The chapter is a model of how to remain faithful to God in a hostile or secular culture. Daniel doesn't stage a loud protest, but wisely and respectfully negotiates a way to maintain his purity. Then, divine sovereignty. Despite being in exile, a sign of God's judgment, God is still in control. He grants favor with the officials, gives wisdom, and blesses their obedience. The Babylonian system may have captured their bodies, but it could not capture their hearts or control their God. Identity. The central conflict is about identity. Would these young men accept their new Babylonian identities and compromises, or would they hold fast to their identity as people of the God of Israel? Their choice of diet was a tangible way to reaffirm their ultimate loyalty. Then God honors faithfulness. The story demonstrates that when individuals take a stand for God, he supports and prospers them, often in ways that lead to greater influence and platform, as seen in the following chapters. So in essence, Daniel 1 sets the stage for the entire book by introducing the main characters and establishing the core theme. God is sovereign over human empires, and he rewards those who remain faithfully committed to him, even in a foreign land, okay? So the book of Daniel is just so amazing to read, and it goes deeper than you really know, okay? If you really want to go deeper, it can go deeper, okay? But the whole main theme is, and the key themes are the faithful resistance. He refused to eat the king's food. He remained divine sovereignty. God was in control of all of this, even though the people in the Babylonian culture captured their bodies. They remained their identity and who they were and who they knew they were. And God honors their faithfulness in the end of it all, okay? Regardless of the sovereign rule of the Babylonian God, okay? So, with all of that being said, knowing me, I went in even deeper, okay? I was like, okay. So in the beginning, as I said this, you have the 4 individuals. You have Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, those 4 individuals. Then you have them, hold on, let me go back. So you have those 4 individuals. They were in a totally different culture, okay? They cooked different. They ate different. Different culture, probably different languages, all the above, right? Then King Nebuchadnezzar, who's from a whole different culture, whole different religion, decides to go and capture them, put them in a whole different environment, okay? They're renamed Balthasar, which means Baal protect his life, when it had a whole different meaning prior to that, okay? Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, they got whole totally different names. They were assimilated, okay? Put into a training program to enter in God, to the king's servitorship. So being me and how I am and how my mind thinks, I'm like, okay. This sounds like what we're literally going through now in today's society, as far as modern day society, assimilation, control, all of this stuff, right? And I went and said, okay, so what can Daniel 1 mimic in our modern day society of assimilation? So the thing says, the story of Daniel is a powerful and nuanced archetype that finds many echoes in our modern society. It's not just a story of ancient political conquest. It's a masterclass in how to maintain integrity and identity within systems designed to assimilate you. At its core, Daniel 1 is about resisting assimilation, not through loud public protests, but through quiet, consistent, and strategic faithfulness. Daniel and his friends are co-opted into the Babylonian system to serve its purposes, but they find ways to remain true to their core identity. So, here are ways that Daniel 1 mimics in our modern day society. So we have what we call the corporate or the professional world. This is the most direct parallel. So the Babylonian court was the corporate ladder of its day. The Babylonian excellence program. So Daniel and his friends were selected from the conquered elite, the best and the brightest, and offered a prestigious fast-track career in the empire's administration. This mimics today's recruitment of top talent from universities, especially into high-pressure fields like finance, tech, and consulting. Assimilation through perks and identity erasure. They were given names, replacing God-centered names. All right, sorry. Oh, all right, sorry, a phone call came through. But assimilation through perks and identity erasure. They were given new names, replacing God-centered names with Babylonian ones. The king's rich food and wine. This is akin to a company, giving you a new corporate identity, like a job title or a brand allegiance. Immersing you in a culture of expensive perks like free gourmet meals, company retreats, bonuses that can subtly pressure you to conform and prioritize company loyalty over personal ethics. Encouraging a lifestyle that may conflict with your personal values. Relentless workaholism, mandatory social drinking. Daniel's test as a quiet negotiation. Daniel doesn't refuse outright. He proposes a pilot program. Hold on 1 second. Somebody's at my door. Yes, how may I help you?
Hello?
Yes.
Miss Shirley, she's asking you to put the piece over here that you gave me.
Okay, where is she at?
She's right here. Come, Miss Shirley, so she's asking you. Come, Miss asking you.
Okay, I opened the garage. Oh, you can never trust people nowadays. Alrighty. All right, sorry, had to open the door for somebody. But anyway. All right, so. Oh, God. All right, so Daniel's test as a quiet negotiation. Daniel doesn't refuse outright. He proposes a pilot program. Please test your servants for 10 days. This is a modern equivalent of strategically pushing back on a corporate policy by proposing a data-driven experiment or finding a creative compromise that allows you to uphold your principles without being insubordinate. So then we have two. So number one, we have how the assimilation happens in the modern day society. It happens in the corporate or the professional world, okay? Where we're given an identity based on the title that they put on us or whatnot. All the stress from the job title, the brand allegiance, all the company treats, the bonuses, we're getting pushed by, different individuals to conform to how it is, losing our self-worth, our self-respect, losing our character, and how they want us to perform in their company, okay? So then you have cultural and social assimilation. This is about the pressure to conform to dominant social norms and lose your unique cultural or religious identity. The pressure to fit in. Just as Daniel was pressured to eat non-kosher food, individuals today face pressure to adopt mainstream habits that conflict with their beliefs, be it dietary restrictions like halal, kosher, or vegan, Sabbath observance, or modesty standards, okay? And then you have the loss of name identity. Changing their names was an attempt to erase their Hebrew identity and redefine them as Babylonians. This mimics immigrant assimilation. The pressure to Anglicanize a name, abandon native language, or shed cultural traditions to succeed in a new country. Social media conformity. The pressure to adopt popular opinions, aesthetics, and behaviors online, silencing unique perspective to gain followers and acceptance. Then it goes into the educational system. The goal of King Nebechanezzar was to re-educate the Hebrew use in the language and the literature of the Babylonians. Indoctrination into a worldview. Schools. This is the process of being taught a specific set of values, histories, and philosophies as absolute truth while marginalizing or dismissing others. Modern parallels include political or ideological echo chambers like universities or schools that promote a single dominant ideology, pressuring students to adapt its framework uncritically. Nationalistic curricula, education systems that teach a sanitized, one-sided version of history to foster patriotism, much like the Babylonians teaching their own supremacy. I remember back in the day when I used to be in school, okay? And I never was taught about African history, right? Some of us can know, okay? Never was taught about African history, but I was talking about American history, and rightfully so. I'm in America, okay? But never was taught about African history. You had to either go read a book and learn it for yourself, okay? So that's what I feel they're talking about in this. Then you have the model minority trope and tokenism. Daniel and his friends were chosen precisely because they were exceptional, without any physical defect. They were handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, okay? So what they mean by tokenism, they were used as symbols to show that the Babylonian system was benevolent and that good captives could succeed. Today, this mimics when organizations promote a few individuals from minority groups to showcase diversity, while the underlying system remains unchanged and potentially hostile to the wider group. Pressure of representation. As tokens, their success or failure was seen as a reflection of their entire people. This places an immense burden on individuals from marginalized groups who are often expected to represent their entire race, religion, or culture. So, the modern Daniel strategy for resistance. The story's enduring power isn't just in identifying the problem, but in modeling a solution. So, excel with integrity. Daniel didn't become mediocre to resist. He became the best, 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters. He used the system's resources, like education, without internalizing its values. Choose your battles wisely, number 2. He didn't protest the name change, but he drew a firm line at the food that would defile him. This is what knowing what is a non-negotiable versus what is a secondary issue. Propose creative alternatives. He didn't just say no. He said, what if we tried this instead? This is the strategy of constructive resistance. Build a supportive community. He didn't act alone. He had Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Resistance to the assimilation is nearly impossible without a community that shares your values and supports you. In summary, Daniel 1 mimics the experience of anyone trying to navigate a powerful, seductive system, corporate, cultural, educational, or social, without losing their core self. It's a timeless guide on how to be in the world, but not of it, succeeding on the system's terms while ultimately serving a higher purpose. Now, what is said here in this modern Daniel strategy for resistance is something that we can definitely use in modern day society as well, because there's a lot of division amongst a lot of people. And yeah, if we stood together as a society, we could definitely be strong. So, but anyway, let's go into, does this go deeper? So I said this because I had to go deeper, because I had to go deep. Because when I look into our history, well, I consider myself African American. I said, does this go deeper, like the slave trade? How food is used to be healthier now. Now it's more riddled with more processed food to become sick, right? So when we use the lens of Daniel 1 to examine the history of the slave trade in the modern food industry, the parallel moves from a metaphor for social pressure to a stark analysis of systemic control, physical subjugation, and deliberate harm, okay? Now, the key is this. While Daniel faced a system that wanted to assimilate him for its use, the dynamics you're describing are often about systems that want to exploit and control a population, sometimes to the point of intentional debilitation. And now if we want to talk about it, let's break it down, we can, okay? So the slave trade and food as a tool of control. Now we got, during the transatlantic slave trade, Food was not just a sustenance, it was a primary instrument of power and domination. The king ration versus the slave ration. Just as Daniel was offered the king's rich food and wine, enslaved Africans were given rations by their captors and enslavers, but the intent was the opposite. Instead of elevating them, the rations were designed to be cheap and just sufficient to maintain labor. Assimilation through erasure of identity and knowledge. Enslavers systemically stripped Africans of their names, languages, cultures, and critically their knowledge of their own agriculture and cuisine. They were forced to rely on foods provided by the oppressor, which were often nutritionally inferior to their native diets. The creation of soul food as an act of resilience. The culinary tradition of soul food is a powerful testimony to the Daniel-like resilience. Enslaved people took the undesirable scraps they were given, like pig intestines, feet, ears, greens from tough vegetables, and using retained knowledge and incredible creativity, transformed them into a nourishing and culturally significant cuisine. This is a direct parallel to Daniel requesting vegetables and water, a conscious choice to seek purity and health from within a system of imposed corruption. Now, I know these people had to survive, but, they did what they had to do, okay? The modern processed food industry, a new king. This is where the analogy becomes chillingly modern. The processed food industry can be seen as a new systemic Babylon that offers its own king's foods. It's cheap, it's addictive, and readily available, with devastating consequences for public health. The deliberate undermining of health. Just as some argue that slave rations were designed to keep a population subservient and physically weak enough not to rebel, but strong enough to work, critics of the modern food industry point to the disease of civilization, diabetes, heart disease, obesity, that disproportionately affect poor and marginalized communities with limited access to healthy foods. So then you have addiction instead of nourishment. The Babylonian king's food was rich and tempting. Modern processed food is scientifically engineered in labs to hit bliss points of sugar, fat, and salt, making it hyperpalatable and addictive. This keeps consumers coming back, much like a dependent subject to a king's table, while the nutritional value is minimal. The loss of food sovereignty. Daniel knew his divinely given dietary laws. He knew his laws. Today, many people have lost connection with their food, have lost connection with where their food comes from, how to grow it, or what constitutes real nourishment. We have assimilated into a system that values shelf life and profit over health, making us dependent on corporations for our most basic need, food and water. The Daniel response in modern foodscape. The test. People are now conducting their own 10-day tests through cleanses, elimination diets, and whole food challenges, and discovering, like Daniel, that they look and feel healthier, which is a blessing. A lot of people are awakening to what modern day society is doing to us, okay? So that's what that means. This is our modern day test, if you will. People are doing more cleanses. They're doing elimination diets. They're doing more whole food diets. things that will give us the appropriate nutrition for our bodies that won't cause disease. So, seeking the post in the water. This modern movement is a direct rejection of the king's food and concludes. So you have farm to table and organic movements, okay? You have a lot of companies coming up nowadays that are doing the farm to table methods and organic movements. You have the urban gardening and farming companies out there where people are reclaiming their food sovereignty, much like the enslaved people cultivating their own small gardens. And then dietary choices, people are making better dietary choices nowadays because they want to opt out of the system that constantly is feeding you unhealthy, unethical foods that is causing disease. Like, I like y'all. When I was reading, I was just like kind of mind blown here. So now, if we go deeper, the systems of dependency. The common thread is the creation of a system of dependency where the powerful control a vital resource, food in this case, to manage a population. They're using food to control a population. The Babylonian system. Eat our food, take our names, and become loyal servants of our empire. The slavery system. Eat this ration to have just enough strength to work our fields. Your health and heritage are not our concern. The industrial food system. Eat this cheap, tasty food. Don't worry how it's made or what's in it. It's convenient and it's affordable. And all three, the act of consciously choosing what to eat becomes a radical act of defiance and a reclaiming of one's own health, identity, and autonomy. Yes, honey. Yes. Because you're choosing not to assimilate to this society we live in. So, Daniel 1 narrative definitely goes deeper. It's not just about social assimilation in an office. It's a foundational story about resistance systems that use the very substance of your body as a tool for control. Whether that control is aimed at your loyalty, your labor, or your lifelong health. It is. It is. It is. It so is. And they're using that. They know this. They know this, Queen. They know this. They know that a lot of people, especially with this thing now, with the SNAP benefits and all of this stuff, right? They know that food, you need food. They know that you need food to survive, right? They know that you need water to survive. They know this. And our bodies are the temple of the living God. So what can we do to put or to what can we do to get people to defile their bodies? Let's put this cheap food onto the shelves. Make it tasty enough so it tastes good now. Make it good and tasty so that we can continue to eat this tasty food, but yet it's causing people to get depression. Yet it's causing people to get overweight. Yet it's causing people to get diabetes, high blood pressure, autoimmune issues. Like, come on, guys. Let's wake up here. Let's wake up. Let's wake up. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. It is time to wake up. Now, so then I had to go a little deeper, guys. I had to go a little deeper on this, okay? Would you say the powers that be now, the powers that be, are taking the systems from the corrupt kings and the rulers, etc., that were from the Bible now, and using it against God's people to suppress them? Let's read, right? So, from a theological and historical perspective, many would argue yes. The core principles of control, assimilation, and oppression used by corrupt biblical rulers are indeed the same playbook used by modern oppressive systems. This isn't necessarily a claim that a secret council meets to study the book of Daniel or any book in the Bible, but rather that the strategies of worldly power are timeless and archetypical. The Bible documents these strategies in their ancient forms, and we see them recur throughout history because they are effective for consolidation of power. So let's break it down and connect it to the powers that be in this world, okay? The biblical blueprint for control. This is the biblical blueprint of control. The Bible presents a recurring conflict between the kingdom of God and the kingdoms of this world, which are often depicted as in rebellion against God. These kingdoms use consistent tactics. Let's go in one kingdom, Egypt, when Pharaoh. He systemized oppression through forced labor. The goal was to crush the spirit and identity of the Israelites through exhausting work and genocidal policies, killing the male infants. In the Babylonian time when Nebuchadnezzar, as we discussed, systemized assimilation. The goal was to erase cultural and religious identity by co-opting the elite into the Babylonian system, changing their names, changing their diet and education. The Roman Empire systemized accommodation with overwhelming force. It allowed conquered peoples to maintain some customs, like their Jewish religious rites, but demanded ultimate allegiance to Caesar as Lord, using the threat of brutal crucifixion for dissent, okay? So how are these systems used today against God's people and others? Because I'm sure there are other systems that were used. But the modern powers that be, which can include governmental systems, unchecked corporate empires, ideological machinery, and other centralized structures of control, often employ these same ancient strategies. So, from the Pharaoh model, economic oppression and debt slavery. Back then, Pharaoh worked the Israelites to the bone for his economic gain. Now, systems can be designed to create a permanent underclass trapped in debt, student loan debt, medical debt, payday loans, and living wage jobs that offer little time or energy for spiritual life, family life, or community life. The grind can be a form of spiritual oppression, keeping people focused on solely survival. That's it. Not focusing on God at all, but focusing on survival. The Nebuchadnezzar model, cultural and ideological assimilation. Then he changed the names, the diet, and the education to create compliant Babylonian servants. So now the new names. This is the pressure. Excuse me. This is the pressure to adopt a secular, materialistic identity. Your primary identity becomes consumer, employee, or part of a political tribe rather than a child of God. The king's food. We have lost our identity, guys. That's our new name. If somebody was to ask you right now, hi, I'm his good thing found. Hi. The new name. If I had to say right now, okay, who am I? Who really am I? Oh, my name is Vanna. Oh, I am a wife. I'm a nurse practitioner. I am this, that. I work for da, 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 da. But is that truly me? We have lost our identity, guys. Like the king's food. As we discussed, this is the flood of mental and physical junk food. A media diet of sensationalism, propaganda that dulls the spirit and corrupts the mind. Back when, before I was on my journey, my weight loss journey, long time ago, okay? And I could tell you this, whoever is on a weight loss journey on this page here, or a wellness journey, you don't even have to be on a weight loss journey, but a wellness journey, or getting healthy, whatever. But have you ever noticed when you eat junk food, how you feel? You feel disconnected from God. It's like your spirit is dull, is numb. Your mind is corrupted. You feel depressed. You feel anxious. You just feel bloated all the time. I mean, you just feel horrible. You feel so horrible, so fatigued. Yes, tired. You just feel just not like you. You don't feel like you. You don't feel like you. You have mental fog. No mental clarity. Everything is like, I'm just here. I'm just existing. But then back when I decided to change my diet, decided to just change how I lived, how I functioned in life, right? It's like, oh my God, I got a flood of just downloads, as they call it. Just downloads. It was like the spirit just kept speaking to me. Just speaking to me. it was like everything, like, oh my God, I was like physically awakened to things that I was like, oh my God, like the depression subsided. All of it, like, guys, the food that we eat, the food that they're giving us, the junk food that they're giving us is corrupting our physical bodies. It's corrupting our minds and how we think, how we function. And Daniel refused to eat the king's food for a reason, because he knew that this would be what it is. Okay? So now we're going into the Babylonian education system, right? This is an education system that often actively marginalizes a biblical worldview, teaching philosophical naturalism. They're teaching nothing about God, right? Moral relativism, and a history that sidelines the role of faith. The goal is to produce citizens who see the world through the state or society's lens, not through the lens of Scripture. What are they teaching us in school? Or what did they teach us in school, right? This is why a lot of people are waking up to wanting to take their kids out of school and homeschooling them. You have people, again, like I said previously, you have people breaking out of the system and renewing their minds to how they're eating. Instead of focusing on or depending on grocery stores to be the provider for their food, they're growing their own food. I see people buying lots of land, building a compound for the family, growing fruits, veggies, all of that stuff. Like, people are waking up. People are literally waking up to this Babylonian system. And it, like I said, it goes deeper than we really know here. This is not all about diet, okay? Because it goes deeper, okay? Because in school, they don't teach us. They don't teach us about taxes. They don't teach us about anything that we really, I mean, let me go back, okay? They do teach. Because I went through school and I'm very grateful for my education. Don't get me wrong. I'm very grateful for my education. So let me not be ungrateful in that respect. And I respect all teachers and everything. But they really need to teach the foundational aspect of what we truly need in society. A lot of people don't know about financial literacy. When they reach that age of retirement, they don't know their number that they truly need to retire. So unfortunately, by the time they reach retirement, they still have to work. And by the time they reach retirement, will they even have their health? Because the food nowadays sucks. Like I said, guys, it goes deeper. And I'm sorry if you hear my thing in the background. He said we have to make sure our soil is poor to plant. Yes. Because, I don't know. Today, anyway, the Caesar model, the demand for ultimate allegiance. Then they wanted you to worship Caesar as Lord or die, right? Now, The demand for ultimate allegiance is more subtle but equally present. It's the demand that the state, science, the party, or the collective is the ultimate source of truth, morality, and salvation. When government policy, a social movement, or a corporate mandate directly contradicts biblical teaching, like sanctify of life, human sexuality, or religious freedom, believers are forced into a Daniel-like choice. Do we obey God or do we go with what man says, right? Let me see what she said though. Said born and had some education in Mississippi. The history books taught us there would be no women or a black president. Yeah. And I wonder if I'm his good thing found. I wonder if you heard what I said earlier about the slave trade, girl. I think, yeah, you're a girl. Yes. Yes, honey. This goes deep, honey. This goes so deep. So they always say the people that are spiritually awakened or whatever are crazy, but we're not crazy. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So, a theological perspective, the principles and powers. The Apostle Paul expands his concept beyond human rulers. He writes about wrestling not just against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Ephesians 6:12. From this view, the powers that be are not just corrupt people. They are systemic evils and spiritual realities that can inhabit and use governments, corporations, and ideologies as their instruments. These systems have a life of their own and a will to perpetuate, often in opposition to the will of God. So, the enduring call to faithful resistance. So many believers would contend that the same spiritual forces and patterns of oppression documented in the Bible are actively at work in modern systems. The goal of these systems, ancient and modern, is to suppress the truth of God. Romans 1:18. Make people dependent on the system instead of God. Yes, spiritual wickedness and warfare. Erode a distinct Christian identity. Many believers don't know who they are in God. And assimilate believers into the world's mold. Like, however, the Bible also provides the enduring model of response. The faithful resistance of Daniel, Moses, the apostles, and ultimately Christ. The call is not to be violent. The call is not to violent revolution, but to the unwavering faithfulness, to refuse to bow, to choose the pure food of God's word, to render to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's, and to trust that in the end, the kingdom of God will triumph over all the kingdoms of this world. Right? In the end, God will be the one that is triumphant in this. All right? So, the Bible is literally what they call the book of life. It is literally your playbook to life itself, right? I figure that the Bible is seen as God's divine's playbook. It is the owner manual for human life. And I just pray that a lot of people start to see it that way, because I was always a believer, and I'm still very new to all of this as well. I'm not a preacher by no means. By no means, I'm not a preacher. I'm just sharing what I'm kind of learning, okay? And this just blew my mind on what I was reading today, and which I knew deep down. And my soul was like kind of in torment over it, because that's a lot. But when viewed through this lens, everything we discuss takes on deeper, more coherent meaning, okay? Let's break down what it means for the Bible to be a playbook to life, okay? So what it means to be a playbook, right? A playbook contains the strategies, the rules, and foundational philosophies for a team. It explains how to win and how to avoid losing. As a divine playbook, the Bible is seen to provide the foundational rule book, which is the law. It establishes the fundamental rules for functioning and moral life, like the Ten Commandments. These are not arbitrary restrictions, but the manufacturer, which is God, specifications for humans flourishing, explaining what leads to life and what leads to death. The game, the plan, historical names like the books of Genesis, Exodus, Kings, and Daniels are like game films of past contests. Okay? So these things have already been replayed over and over again, especially now in modern day society. They're just being replayed over and over again. And I want people to wake up and understand that these are just the same things over and over again. Nothing new. Let me see what you said, dog. Some of us accept what's going on now and been going on in this world. We have to hold on, make some sacrifices. All I know is the Lord made me some promises, so I seek him, and he will fulfill his promises. The Lord never lies. The Lord never lies. And we need to continue to have faith. We need to continue to have faith, honey. But let me keep going. The game film. Books like I said, are like the books of Genesis, Exodus, Kings, and Daniel are like game films of past contests. They show you what winning looks like. Daniel resisting the assimilation of King Nebechanezzar, falling prey to his food, and how he functioned in his daily activities. David trusting God against Goliath. What losing looks like. Saul and his disobedience, losing his kingdom. Okay? Even King Nebuchadnezzar, he was at his reign until he was highly humbled. Israel's repeated idolatry. After they were taken out of Egypt, they were so ungrateful. God has blessed a lot of us. God has truly blessed all of us with just the little things in life. Just the little things in life. But we can be so ungrateful sometimes. God took the Israelites out of Egypt, and their prayers were answered. But then it was just taking them a long time to get through the daggone wilderness. It was just taking them a long time to get through the wilderness. And they just was beginning to get impatient, I'm sorry. Just like a lot of us nowadays. We're very impatient. So they began to make their own idols, set up statues and worship this and that and the third and all of that stuff, right? And it didn't get them nowhere. Nowhere. It didn't get them nowhere. It didn't get them nowhere. It didn't get them nowhere. I mean, eventually they got to where they needed to be, but still they were struggling. They were struggling because they were not depending on God. Yes. Yes. And that's how it is nowadays. We become so impatient. We become so impatient that we lose focus on God. And what his intended assignment is for us. We no longer hear him. It's just like we just become disconnected. We become disconnected. And when we become disconnected, we spiral into habits, into things that does not serve us at all. Okay? Excuse me. The opposing team strategy, how Pharaoh, Nebuchadnezzar, and Caesar operate. By studying them, you can recognize the same plays that are being run today, okay? So the play, caller, and ultimate strategy, or Jesus prophecy. The New Testament presents Jesus as the ultimate quarterback and the ultimate coach, who perfectly executes the plan and reveals its full meaning. Prophecy, like in Isaiah, Daniel, and Revelation, reveals the final outcome of the game, assuring the team of the ultimate victory. Yes, go ahead, doll. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sharing this with you guys because a lot of people are asleep. They're asleep of what's going on here in this world nowadays. A lot of people are asleep. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect at all. I go through my things. I go through what I go through, okay? But I'm so happy that God always continues to call me back, you know? So the playbook for the heart. Books of wisdom and epistles. Books like the Psalms, Proverbs, and the letters of Paul provide the mental game. How to think, how to pray, how to handle adversity, and how to work as a team, as the church. We are the living church, okay? Not the physical church, but the living church, okay? Applying the playbook to modern oppression. So if the Bible is the playbook, then our modern struggles are just the latest season in an ancient league, okay? We are the church. We are the church. Yes, we are the church. So, if the Bible is the playbook, then our modern struggles are just the latest season in an ancient league. You recognize the opposing team's formations. When you see a system that demands ultimate allegiance, like Caesar back in the day, tries to erase your identity through assimilation, like in the Babylonian culture, or crushes you with economic oppression, like Pharaoh, you aren't confused. You've seen this play before. You know its goal is to separate you from the coach, which is God, and take you out of the game. That's the playbook. The whole playbook is eventually they want us to bow down to them. They want us to be assimilated, which they've kind of been successful in some of that. They want you to reach economic oppression to depend on them. And then they want to confuse you with all of the things or whatever to make you believe that there is no God. Okay? And that's the play. You know your counterplay. So the playbook doesn't just describe the problem, it prescribes the response. Okay? Against assimilation, like the Babylon. The counterplay is faithful resistance, like Daniel, excelling without compromising his core identity. So, in modern day society, if we go there, we do not have to conform to the foods that they give us, okay? We don't have to. We don't have to. We don't have to eat the fast food that they give us. The fast food that is on every single corner. What else is on every single corner? A hospital, right? A urgent care, right? Why? Come on, guys. Like, against oppression like Pharaoh, the counterplay is prophetic confrontation like Moses. Let my people go, he said, and steadfast endurance, trusting in divine deliverance. Right? Against idolatry, the counterplay is martyr-like conviction like the apostles. We must obey God rather than human beings in Acts 5:29. So the final score is the playbook. The revelation reveals that the opposing team, despite its current dominance, has already been defeated. The cross was the decisive play. Jesus died for our sins, right? And the resurrection guarantees victory of it all, right? They killed Jesus, right? They killed him, right? And they thought that they had victory, right? But yet, they killed him. And God had victory in the end, right? Like, God. This provides hope and endurance, allowing a player to suffer a short-term loss without losing faith in the ultimate win. Gosh. Oh, girl, you're not talking about it. You're not talking about it. Yes. It's not just food. It's liquor stores. Yes. Smoking. Yes. Anything that defiles the body. Prostitution. Sorry, I'm on YouTube, but you know what I mean? Like, come on, guys. Like, So, in conclusion of that, human history is not random. It's not random at all, okay? It's not random. It is a coherent story with a beginning. It has a beginning, a central conflict, and a divinely ordered end, okay? There's no new problem here. The challenges we face are variations of ancient spiritual battles that have been going on a long time now. And the wisdom to navigate them is contained in the text and the holy word that a lot of people are not reading. Okay. I used to be one of them. But now I have to pick it up and read it because it's giving me the playbook to life, right? So our role is to learn the playbook, trust the coach, and execute the plays with faithfulness, not necessarily with immediate success in worldly terms, right? So when you ask if the powers that be are using ancient systems against God's people, the playbook answer is a resounding yes. But it also resounds with a triumphant, do not be afraid. I have overcome the world, John 16:33. The outcome is not in doubt for those who are on the winning team. And that is God's people, right? So, if I had to bring it back, and the reason why I had to really go deeper into some of this stuff is because, like I said, a lot of us deal with identity issues. We all deal with identity issues. And if we knew who we were in God, it wouldn't be a problem. But a lot of us, the identities that we know were given to us. They were given to us by this world because we have lost our connection with the one true living God, right? The Holy Spirit cannot live in a body filled with all of that. We wake up, the enemy has a lot of us food. Yes, honey. Agree. And this channel, Simply Vanna, is about my weight loss journey, about what I'm learning, how I am growing and becoming, about, what I eat, all of that stuff, right? But like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm not claiming to be perfect. I dealt with a lot of things in my life, and I'm currently on a healing journey, not just a weight loss journey, because I feel like when you're on, you need to, weight loss will come. Weight loss will come. But I feel like a lot of people need to heal, and they need to figure out who they are first before they, as they're working on themselves, or whatever the case may be, okay? So I asked this thing here, so how can I connect this with my weight loss journey and stuff like that? Because I dealt with so many things, like, the deeper meaning behind, I dealt with a lot of emotional trauma. I dealt with a lot of overeating. I dealt with gluttony, procrastination, obviously a lot of spiritual warfare while on this journey that led me to the burnout that I, have been experiencing, self-worth, doubt in myself, imposter syndrome, all of the things, right? And, as a person that I feel like is spiritually awakened. You know, you have a person that could be spiritual awakened to the things, but they're still kind of have a foot into the Babylonian system, right? And that's where I felt like I was. I was like in the middle here. Like I had one foot where I knew all of the things, like, yeah, like I know that this system is corrupt. And then I'm still in the system, right? So during that time of burnout, or whatever the case may be, that's why I was like, you know, I'm starting to go back into old ways, old habits, old thinkings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I need to go onto the Daniel fast. I need to do something here. I need to do something because I don't want to go back to where I was. Okay. Hey, Auntie. So you have just, so when I asked it that, it says, you have just connected the dots to the most profound battle there is, the war of the human soul, fought on the terrain of your body, your mind, and your daily habits, okay? What did you say? The Holy Spirit can live, the body filled with all of that. We wake up, the enemy has a lot. I'm in agreement with you. We are going to speak and decree and declare you are growing with God and you are no longer bound by your past. Thank you. Thank you. I got you. All right. So, yeah, so the war is on the mind. The war is on the mind for the human soul, fought on the terrain of your body, your mind, and your daily habits. So what does weight loss have to do with all of this? And it has a lot to do with everything. From the perspective of the spiritual playbook, the struggle with the weight is rarely just about food and exercise. It is often the visible symptom of an invisible spiritual conflict. But as an interconnected fronts in a single war. So a lot of us are dealing with more of a deeper battle other than just weight itself, okay? So you have the deeper battle, the garden versus the Babylon. The core conflict begins in the Garden of Eden and is perfected in Babylon. The garden's design, humanity was created to be in perfect relationship with God, right? Taking in what he provided good food, pure food, and exercising dominion under his authority. This is the state of what wholeness looks like, purpose and self-worth rooted in divine identity. In the Babylonian system, this is the world system that says, find your worth in what you consume. Numb your pain with the king's food. And when you mentioned alcohol, I was like, yes, yes. Numb your pain with the king's food. Find your identity and your appearance or achievements, right? A lot of us find our identity in who we are, our achievements, what we look like, how we dress, how, all of that, right? So your struggle with weight is often a battle between these two kingdoms. Decoding the symptoms as spiritual warfare. Here is how each element you listed fits into the deeper framework. So, emotional trauma and overeating. This is the wound. Trauma creates a void, a pain that screams to be filled, right? The king's food, processed, hyperpalatable, sugary foods, is offered as a temporary, powerful aesthetic. It's a counterfeit comfort, a way to numb the pain without addressing the source. Overeating becomes a ritual of self-medication against the memories and emotions the soul cannot process. Gluttony and procrastination. These are the weapons of oppression or opposition. They are not just bad habits, they are spiritual strongholds. Gluttony is the worship of consumption. It's the belief that this thing, food or liquor or anything that you got going on, can satisfy the soul's deep hunger for God's presence, peace, and love. Procrastination is the theft of purpose. It stops you from stepping into the good works of God prepared in advance for you, Ephesians 2:10. It keeps you in a cycle of inaction and self-loathing, perfectly neutralizing you as effective agent of God's kingdom. Doubt, imposter syndrome, and low self-worth. This is the lies the system feeds you. Babylon tells you your identity is your dress size, your productivity, your social status. When you fail to meet that standard, the accuser's voice whispers, you are not enough, which is doubt. You are a fraud and will be exposed, imposter syndrome. You are unlovable and unworthy, low self-worth. These lies directly attack the core truth of the gospel, that your worth is irrevocable, bestowed by God through Christ. Spiritual awakening. This is the Daniel moment. This is when you suddenly see the Babylonian system for what it is. You realize the food is defiling you, the procrastination is imprisoning you, and the lies are killing you. You hear a call back to the garden, to purity, to purpose, to your true identity as a child of God. This awakening is deeply disorienting because it forces you to question everything you've been taught about comfort and success. So, weight loss as a spiritual warfare and a discipleship. A successful journey is not about counting calories. It is a deliberate daily campaign of spiritual warfare. So, taking every thought captive. 2 Corinthians 10:5. This fighting doubt and imposter syndrome. When a thought you'll always be fat arises, you capture it, replace it with the truth. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. My body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. Fasting as a weapon. Choosing to say no to the king's food and yes to simple God-made nourishment is a powerful declaration. It is telling your flesh and the spiritual forces behind it, I will not be mastered by anything. 1 Corinthians 6:12. It is using physical hunger to trigger spiritual hunger, creating space to hear God's voice about the trauma you've been numbing. Renewing your mind, Romans 12:2. Weight loss requires you to stop conforming to the pattern of this world, like drive-thrus, sedentary life, emotional eating, and be transformed by renewing of your mind. You must learn a new holy pattern for dealing with stress, boredom, and celebration that doesn't involve food, okay? Putting on the armor of God, Ephesians 6, the belt of truth, to combat the lies about your self-worth, the breastplate of righteousness to protect your heart from shame when you stumble, the shoes of gospel of peace to walk out your new identity with confidence, the shield of faith to extinguish the flaming arrows of one bite won't hurt, the helmet of salvation to protect your mind from doubt and imposter syndrome, the sword of the Spirit, God's word to declare truth over your cravings and your calling. The true goal. The ultimate goal then is not a number on the scale. The goal is freedom. It is freedom Daniel had, to live in the heart of the empire without being of the empire. It is the freedom to no longer be a slave to food, to trauma, to procrastination, or the opinions of others. When you embark on this journey with this understanding, every healthy meal becomes an act of worship. Every resisted craving becomes a victory in spiritual warfare. Every step of exercise becomes a proclamation to your body as a temple and not a trash can. You are not just on a diet. You are in a discipleship program for your soul. For your soul. Reclaiming the territory that rightfully belongs to God. Y'all, this was my study for today. This was my study for today. Like, it's only been, what? I did my juice fast the first 3 days, and I've been doing the Daniel fast for 2 days. All of this. Like, guys, wow. These were all the things that I were feeling when I was burnt out. All the things that I was burnt out. I had a lot of doubts, imposter syndrome, procrastination, you know. The devil tried to get me back into the overeating cycle. And I was like, no, honey, we can't. We cannot. That's why I decided to go on a Daniel fast, you know? So, boy, this has been a long live. But I honestly wanted to just share with you guys what I was literally reading today. I'm up to Daniel 7 now, the book of Daniel 7. And just in those few days, I got all of this, literally all of this, and just this time, you know? So I'm just waking. I just want everybody to just kind of, I know we live in a world that, we're human and we have mistakes. We go through our own mistakes and everything. How we think or whatever. But know that in the end, God has the victory. He has the victory. And know that when you start to feel these things, that means it's time for a real reset. It's really time for a reset to get back connected, okay? Because we have to have that connection. Yes, but who's are under me shall dwell safely and shall be quit from the fear of evil. Yes. Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you. So I honestly hope that you guys got something from this live. I know it's been a long, long live. It's been a long live. But I hope that whoever needs to hear this will hear it, and that they'll take it for what it is, and that they'll start changing the perspective and how they're dealing with life itself, you know. Thank you. Thank you. I'm his good thing found. Thank you. Thank you. So, yes. So, I'm just astonished, guys. So, but anyway, you guys, thank you for joining the live. And I pray that you guys take this and really apply it and don't just listen, okay? Y'all take care. Y'all have a beautiful and blessed day. Thank you for joining. Thank you.